So I've had parents sometimes say something like this, and they'll say, yeah, of course, I don't want to be like yelling and screaming, but sometimes I think a kid needs to hear you raise your voice a little bit so they know you mean business. What's there's a thinking error behind that statement. What does that parent need to understand or change in their beliefs there?
Well, the reality is that when you raise your voice, children know that you mean it because you've taught them that that's your action point. And the problem with harshness, and that's really what we're talking about here, because the intensity, when you raise your voice, it communicates this message of disapproval, and a child feels unloved, unwanted, and just it really challenges a child's security when we use harshness to solve problems. So you want to make a change. You do not have to use anger to get your kids to follow instructions. Some parents say, you don't know my kids. My kids only respond when I get angry. And that's when I say that's because you've trained them that way. Let's retrain them. Let's have a meeting and say, son, I realize that I'm doing a lot of yelling around here. I know you don't like it. I don't like it. I want to make some changes, but it means I'm going to have to respond differently to you, and I'm going to ask you to respond differently to me. Can we practice this a little bit so I'm not using yelling? I'd like to use some word cues that'll help you, and then we move to something different than the intensity that we used previously.
If you're just checking this video out, we're talking with Dr. Scott Turansky, co-founder of the National Center for Biblical Parenting, author, speaker, professor, parenting coach trainer. He's the person who helped train me. And we're talking about how you can help your child obey without yelling. And we're specifically focusing in on this issue of action points. And if you like the idea of not having to yell to get your kid to do what you're saying, go ahead and hit the like button on this video as we start talking about the very thing Scott's bringing up here, which is having this conversation with your kid. Let's talk, Scott, a little bit about that conversation that I sit down with my kid. I just love the idea that this isn't, I had a parent one time that I was coaching who said, you guys seem to let the kids in on the secrets. Like, you're not just coming up with ideas in the back room, you're involving them in this process. Talk a little bit about the partnership really that happens in family life, in building cooperation between parents and kids.
Yes. So this meeting we call a vision casting meeting. It's important whenever you want to change the rules in a family. The rules, but I mean the operating principles, the way we're relating together. And now you're saying, I want to make a change here in how we're relating. So this meeting, this vision meeting, I would suggest you would do well to have three parts to it. The first part, you're just telling your child some positive things they're doing in regards to character. So you're not saying you're getting good grades, you're saying you're working harder at school. I can see that you're growing in that area. So we're drawing attention to the inner qualities children have. That's the first part of this vision meeting. Then we say something like this. One thing I want to help you with and start working on more is this idea of cooperation. Now, I'll often use the word cooperation instead of the word obedience, because sometimes obedience has taken on a negative connotation in a family if parents have used it a lot. I don't think it's a negative word, but to avoid that, we sometimes use the word cooperation, which
Mhm.
has a similar feel to it. And we're going to work on cooperation, and then we tell them why. This is going to help you to do better on a ball team or do better at in your school work. It's going to help us have a better working relationship together. It's going to help you to be a better dad someday or a better mom someday. It's going to help you in every relationship. Cooperation is so important. So we're going to practice it together. So we've told them what good things they're learning. We've told them what we're going to work on and why. And the third thing we say is some emotional statement like, and I can hardly wait, or this is going to be great. I'm going to enjoy working on this with you. Something that puts you on the same side as your child. So we're explaining this in general. Then we launch into some very practical structures that can teach this so that we can do training exercises in the course of the day.